My name is Maya Bennett. I am 22 years old and I live in Columbus, Ohio. I am currently in my second year of college studying nursing. I have a small apartment, a part-time job at a coffee shop 2 blocks from campus, and a life that finally feels like it belongs completely to me. But 2 years ago, I had none of that. 2 years ago, I was sitting on the floor of my childhood bedroom staring at a bank statement on my laptop screen that showed a zero balance in an account that was supposed to hold every dream I had ever been promised. This is the story of how I got there and how Grandma Rose made sure it never stayed that way. I grew up in a small town called Millbrook in central Ohio. Population just under 8,000 people. The kind of town where everyone knows your name and your business, and your parents and your grandparents going all the way back. My parents are Linda and Gerald Bennett. My father worked for 20 years as a supervisor at a manufacturing plant just outside town. My mother worked part-time at the school district office. We were not wealthy, but we were comfortable. Stable house, regular meals, nothing extravagant. I have one sibling, my brother Tyler. He is 3 years older than me and has been my parents' favorite for as long as I can remember. I do not say that to be dramatic. I say it because it was simply true and everyone around us knew it, including me. Tyler got the newer car. Tyler got the bigger bedroom. Tyler got the later curfew and the louder praise and the benefit of every single doubt. I was never mistreated exactly. I was just always second, always a little less important. Always the one who could handle it. I handled a lot growing up. Grandma Rose is my father's mother. She is 74 years old, 5 feet 2 inches tall, and the single most formidable woman I have ever known in my entire life. She has silver hair she keeps pinned back, a laugh that fills every room she enters, and a moral compass so precise and unwavering it could make a grown man cry from across a dinner table. Rose never had a lot of money. She lived modestly her whole life, but she was careful and consistent and believed deeply in education in a way that her own son Gerald never quite understood. When I was 10 years old, Grandma Rose sat me down at her kitchen table and told me she was going to do something for me. She said she had watched me since I was born and she could see something in me that she wanted to protect. She said she was going to put money away every single month into a special account, just for me, just for college. She slid a piece of paper across the table with the account details written in her careful handwriting. She told me it was mine. She told me nobody else could touch it. She told me to work hard and trust that it would be there when I needed it. I was 10 years old and I took that promise seriously in a way I still cannot fully explain. I studied hard all through middle school and high school. I made honor roll every semester. I applied to 3 colleges and got into all of them. I chose Columbus State because it had the nursing program I wanted and the cost worked perfectly with what Grandma Rose had saved for me. By the time I turned 18, that account held $150,000. Rose had saved and contributed for 8 years without missing a single month. She had also added birthday money, Christmas money, and a small inheritance she received from her own sister. Every single dollar went into that account for me. I knew the number. I had checked it every few months since I was 16. $150,000. My future, my education, my way out of Millbrook and into the life I had been working toward since I was 10 years old, sitting at Rose's kitchen table. I trusted that it was there. The summer after I graduated high school was one of the happiest times of my life. I had my acceptance letter. I had my enrollment date. I had a plan for every dollar in that account, right down to tuition, housing, textbooks, and living expenses for 4 full years. I told my parents about my plan over dinner one evening in July. My mother smiled and said that was nice. My father nodded and said, "Good for you, Maya." Tyler was there too. He had finished his second year at a private university in Cincinnati called Harrington College, an expensive school. Significantly more expensive than Columbus State. He sat at the table, eating, and said nothing. I remember thinking it was a quiet dinner, nothing unusual, just a regular summer evening in the Bennett house. I had no idea that dinner was the last normal moment before everything collapsed. 3 weeks before my enrollment date, I sat down at my laptop to begin transferring funds from the account to pay my first semester tuition and housing deposit. I logged in. I looked at the screen. I looked again. The balance was zero. Not low, not reduced, not partially withdrawn. Zero. $150,000 gone. Every single cent. I sat completely still for a long moment. My brain could not process what I was seeing. I refreshed the page 3 times. I logged out and logged back in. I checked the account number against the paper Rose had given me 8 years earlier. Same account, same number, zero balance. I scrolled through the transaction history with shaking hands. What I found there made me feel physically sick. Over the past 22 months, there had been a series of transfers, regular, methodical, carefully spaced out so no single withdrawal was large enough to trigger an automatic alert. Each one between $5,000 and $12,000, all transferred to the same account, my father's personal checking account. 41 separate transactions over 22 months. $150,000 gone. I sat on the floor of my bedroom because my legs stopped working properly. Then I picked up my phone and called my father. Gerald answered on the second ring. His voice was calm, almost like he had been waiting for this call. I asked him very quietly what happened to my college fund. There was a long pause. Then he said, "Maya, we need to talk." What my father told me in that conversation was something I never expected to hear from a parent. And when I called Grandma Rose 20 minutes later and told her every single word, what she said next was something none of us in that family were prepared for. My father told me everything in that phone call, not because he wanted to, not because he felt guilty, but because the account was empty and there was nothing left to hide anymore. He told me that Tyler had been struggling financially at Harrington College for the past 2 years. Tuition increases, failed classes he had to repeat, an apartment off campus that cost more than the dorms, a car that needed repairs, credit card that he had built up quietly. Gerald and Linda had been covering Tyler's expenses out of their own income for a while, but eventually it was not enough. So they started transferring from my account, just a little at first, my father said, just to get Tyler through a rough semester. They planned to pay it back before I ever needed it, but the transfers kept coming, semester after semester, expense after expense, and the payback never happened. $150,000 over 22 months, every dollar Grandma Rose had saved for me for 8 years, gone. My father said they were sorry. He said they had no choice. He said Tyler needed it more than I did because Tyler was already in the middle of his education. And I could start with student loans and work my way through. I could start with student loans. After 8 years of working hard and making honor roll and trusting that account was sitting there waiting for me. After every promise Rose had made at that kitchen table. After every month she had quietly set aside money that she did not have to spare. I could start with student loans. I hung up the phone. I sat on my bedroom floor for a long time. I did not cry immediately. I just sat there feeling something I had no word for at the time. Something that was bigger than sadness and quieter than anger. Then I called Grandma Rose. Rose answered on the third ring. She could tell immediately from my voice that something was wrong. She asked me what happened. I told her everything, every transfer, every date, every amount, every word my father had said. Rose was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then she said one thing. She said, "Stay where you are, Maya. I am coming over." She arrived at our house 40 minutes later. She walked through the front door without knocking because she never knocked. She found my parents in the living room and she sat down across from them and she looked at both of them for a long moment without saying a single word. My mother started explaining immediately. She said it was a family decision. She said Tyler needed stability. She said they always intended to replace the money. She said Maya was young and resilient and would be fine. Rose listened to every word without interrupting. Then she said two things very quietly. She said first, that money was not yours to touch. It was never in your name and it was never your decision. She said second, I want every cent back within 30 days. Gerald told her that was not possible. He said they did not have that kind of money sitting available. He said she was being unreasonable. Rose stood up. She said that was fine. Then she walked out. What happened over the next 2 weeks is something the people of Millbrook, Ohio are still talking about. Grandma Rose went to every person she knew in that town. And Rose had lived in Millbrook for 50 years, so she knew everyone. She told the full story to her church group on Sunday morning. She told it to her neighbor Barbara, who was best friends with my mother's closest friend. She told it to the women in her garden club and the people in her weekly card game and the cashier at the grocery store who had known our family for 15 years. She did not yell. She did not exaggerate. She simply told the truth clearly and calmly to every person who would listen. Within 2 weeks, my parents could not go anywhere in Millbrook without people knowing what they had done. Neighbors who had been friends with them for decades stopped making eye contact. My mother's co-workers at the school district office became suddenly very cold toward her. My father's friends from the plant stopped returning his calls. My parents had lived in that town their entire lives. Their reputation was everything to them. And Rose had taken it apart piece by piece simply by telling the truth. But Rose did not stop there. Because Grandma Rose had not spent 50 years being careful and consistent without also being smart. What most people in our family did not know was that Rose had kept every single bank statement from that account going back 8 years, every deposit confirmation, every monthly contribution record, all of it organized neatly in a folder in her filing cabinet at home. She took that folder to a lawyer in Columbus named David Park. David Park reviewed everything and told Rose that because the account had been set up with specific legal language designating the funds exclusively for Maya's educational use, my parents had not just made a bad family decision. They had committed financial fraud. Gerald and Linda Bennett were looking at potential criminal charges. My father called me 3 days after the lawyer sent them a formal letter. His voice sounded like a man who had not slept in a week. He said Rose had gone too far. He said this was a family matter. He said I needed to talk to her and calm things down. I told him very calmly that I had nothing to say to him and that David Park would handle everything from this point forward. Then I hung up. My parents avoided criminal charges by agreeing to a full repayment plan. Every cent of the $150,000 to be repaid to me directly over 4 years with legal documentation and oversight. If they missed a single payment, the criminal complaint would be filed immediately. They signed the agreement. Tyler called me once during all of this. He said he had not known where the money was coming from. I do not know if that is true. I chose not to spend any energy on it either way. Rose sat across from me at her kitchen table the evening after the agreement was signed. The same table where she had made me a promise 12 years earlier. She slid a new piece of paper across to me. It was a confirmation of a new account she had opened in my name alone with a new bank with security measures even she could not override. She said, "Now go to college, Maya." I cried at that table for a long time. Rose sat with me and did not say anything else. She just let me cry. I am in my 2nd year of nursing school now. My grades are good. My apartment is small and clean and completely mine. The repayment from my parents comes in every month without fail because they know what happens if it does not. Tyler finished at Harrington College. We do not speak. My parents and I have a very limited relationship. Some things break in a way that never fully heals, and I have made peace with that. Grandma Rose comes to Columbus once a month, and we have lunch together every single time. She orders the same thing every visit: grilled chicken sandwich and sweet tea. She asks about my classes and my friends and whether I am sleeping enough. Last month she looked at me across the lunch table and said, "You know what I am most proud of?" I asked her what. She said that you never stopped moving forward, not even for a single day. I thought about the girl sitting on the bedroom floor staring at a zero balance. The girl who called her grandmother with shaking hands. The girl who trusted that someone was going to show up for her. Rose showed up. She always does. If this story moved you today, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Her Words for more real stories about the people who fight for us when we cannot fight for ourselves. Leave a comment below and tell me about someone who showed up for you when everything fell apart. I read every single comment. This is Her Words, and your story always matters here.